these are just short conversations. We hope they will whet your appetite to follow up with each of them as we move through a lot of people on the stage today. So David, do you want to kick off with your sustainability program?
Sure, thank you very much. So Secretary Vilsack hit a lot of the big points that I wanted to talk about already, but I think really what it comes down to is why is DoD involved in sustainability, sustainable products, or bio-based products? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, there's federal mandates. We have to do it. There's laws on the books. There's executive orders. And that's helpful, actually, to helping us get financing and resources to do and execute programs like some of the examples you might hear about today, and one from Greg in specific. But really, I think that's the reactive part of it. The proactive part of it is we do it for our mission. I mean, it's a mission imperative to us that we implement bio-based products across the department. The Secretary hit it best when he said, you know, energy security is national security. We need to avoid the need for petroleum products. We need to move away from that as much as possible. I don't have any PowerPoint presentations, which is really weird. For DoD, you're supposed to have like 20 or 30 slides, but there's one that shows a convoy going through Afghanistan and delivering oil or energy and water to the front lines, and that's just a really dangerous proposition. So the more that we can minimize that convoy having to deliver fuel to the front, then the better off we are. But there's also, you know, it's a good business proposition. I mean, I think by implementing sustainable, more bio-based products across the department, we're proving in some of our examples, and Greg's going to talk about one of them, that we can save money. And that's a really big deal for the Department of Defense and the whole federal government. I mean, we basically consume about 65% of the entire federal government's energy. So we are the big hog. We procure about $365 billion annually in goods and services. So we are by far the biggest spender in the federal government. So, you know, the administration, rightly so, is interested in the Department of Defense taking the lead in being more sustainable, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by minimizing our petroleum use, and a variety of other environmental benefits. But we look at it as helping our mission. We look at it as being able to support our men and women in uniform, the artisans that work on our systems, and providing them their tools, the tools they need to do their jobs better. So we've got several programs out there to demonstrate products at our DoD installations to try to ingrain in our policies and our doctrine and our instructions more sustainable, more bio-based products as kind of a mandate, and providing the tools and education and outreach to help us do that. So we do expositions at DoD installations and let vendors come in and demonstrate their products, and some of the vendors here have done that at our DoD installations, and I'll be happy to talk to you more about that program. We also do performance demonstrations. One of our roadblocks is that, you know, I tried this stuff 20 years ago and it didn't work. Well, maybe 20 years ago that recycled content paper didn't work, but bio-based products and other sustainable products do work, and they actually work better in many cases. We have to show that, so we let the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, the Marines kick the tires, if you will, try the products, whether it's bio-based lubricants or absorbents or hydraulic fluids or engine oils, which Greg is going to talk about. Those are very, very, very winnable successes, and it's something that we need to do a better job across the entire federal government of getting those into our systems. And I think with the help of both the government and industry folks here, we can do that. So one of the successes I'd like to try to introduce is Greg, and he's been very viable with several other folks in really showing our folks that sustainable, more bio-based products do work in DoD operations. Greg?
Thank you, David and Karen, and I want to thank the USDA and USB for hosting us today. I'm Greg Blake with Biosynthetic Technologies, and before I get into my spiel real quick, I was with the Bio-Based Products Coalition last night, and they talked extensively about what a great champion David Asiello is for the bio-based companies, and he is the go-to guy within the DoD to try and demonstrate the viability of the products that we all create. And I met David it was probably close to 5 years ago, and we went in proposing a demonstration project of bio-based engine oils in the DoD. And through his tenacity and the hard work and dedication of his team, we, along with some other great companies in the space, have had the privilege of being demonstrated in. There's multiple Air Force bases now working on this. The Department of Homeland Security has a facility. The United Postal Service just yesterday has expressed a willingness to work through the details and move along that. So we're continuing with multiple agencies to do that, to demonstrate the effectiveness of these bio-based products. And In fact, yesterday there was an article in a very important lubricant industry magazine that none of you have ever heard of about just this. And it's creating awareness around these issues. And so I guess for my money, I'd almost rather call these awareness projects than demonstration projects. Because in our case, and I'm sure in many of your cases, before you're going to go out and get the Air Force to try one of your products, you're going to know that it works. You're going to demonstrate to your own satisfaction this product works. And so in the engine oil category, the American Petroleum Institute has to certify products. You have to be certified to the automaker specifications. So we've done all that. We've demonstrated that it works. And now we want to create awareness within the Department of Defense and the federal government and corporations around consumers that there are bio-based alternatives that work great and are cost-effective and serve the purpose for which they're intended, but also protect the environment, are more economical in many cases, and create a benefit for the agricultural community. And I think as well in demonstrating effectiveness, demonstrating to manufacturers of any kind of product that there is a demand, that there's a market, that consumers have interest in these sort of products. And at the end of the day, companies make what people want to buy. So we've got to demonstrate awareness to the manufacturers that there is a demand. And along the line, we've benefited from some other things that have fallen in place, not the least of which is the USDA Bio-Preferred program and the addition of engine oils to that catalog. And to my knowledge, that's the first and only such program in the world that has done engine oils. And we've also received a lot of help and benefit and support from the USB and the Bio-Based Products Coalition and the USDA and many others. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. And let's go back to David. I think David has some news that he would like to share with all of us about what's coming from DoD.
The Department of Defense is a chain of command organization. Shouldn't be any surprise to you. You know, we do what the bosses tell us, especially the ones in uniform. But we also live and die by our policies, and we need to have policies in place. So we've been working on what they call a DoD instruction, which pretty much sets in stone our policies for sustainable acquisition and procurement of goods and services. That DoD instruction is in its final, issuance process. We hope to have it issued within the next month or so. It has to be issued by August 18th at the latest. So we'll have that out. And then what that does is pretty much direct the Department of Defense and the responsible offices within DoD to execute sustainable purchasing of goods and services. Included in that is a very heavy bio-based support. And we are also establishing new targets. I don't have those targets yet for you, but we'll be establishing new targets so that we can try to engage more of our contracts and contract vehicles to procure bio-based products going forward. And we'll be submitting that to the White House, and then we'll be measured against that going forward.
David can only be with us until about noon today. So as we said, we want to whet your appetite. So if you want to have further conversations with David, you better catch him during lunch before he heads out, because he's got sustainability report cards to do today, I understand.
Everything's due to the White House today.
So thanks, David and Greg. And our transition is that David actually studied aerospace engineering. So with that, we want to bring up NASA, Shannah Trout, and David Bingenheimer from Cargill. So you've got a series of questions that I think they are prepared to just kind of rock and roll, and I'm going to let you take this microphone and just push the button and kick off on your questions.
So, what is NASA's bio-based secret to success? I'm Shannah Trout. I'm here representing the Recycling and Sustainable Acquisition Principal Center, which is at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And today, we wanted to come share some of our secrets to success at NASA. I really appreciate hearing what DoD is working on. We have a lot of the similar goals and objectives and strategies, it sounds. Today, I wanted to talk about, first of all, that NASA is also a large procuring agency. We are one of the top 5 also. And last year, 2015, we purchased almost $1 million worth of bio-based products. So for that alone, I am very proud, and that proves how we support all of you. We are trying very hard, and the way we do try so hard is we look at the BioPreferred program and we just try to be the experts on it. And one of those ways is get out there and meet the vendors. We get out, we talk to vendors, we have them come visit us. We have events where we join the public. We have the public come in and experience some of what we're learning, so we try to share our knowledge. And we are buying some of the things that you see here today. We buy bio-based floor coverings, quite a number of that. We also buy fuel additives and a variety of other products that we see back here today. One of those being that I want to elaborate a little bit more on is the transformer insulating oils. And today I brought David along to share some of the information with us about those products. Now, at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, since about 1992, we have been using those insulating products made from soy materials. And we currently have 81 transformers with that product in them, but our specifications from now on also include purchasing with those bio-based materials. So David, if you would please join me and talk a little bit more about your product.
Is it working? One of the success story that Shannah was talking about is transformer insulating oils, also called dielectric fluids. We produce something called EnviroTemp FR3 fluid, which is produced from soybean oil. Now, what does a transformer oil do? It's the fluid inside of electrical transformers, the little gray boxes or the canisters on poles and what have you, all the way through generating stations. They have two primary purposes. They're an electrical insulator, for one, and then they're a coolant, a second. The dominant product right now, globally, is petroleum-based mineral oil. We're the lead in producing a soybean oil-based fluid that has several significant values as compared to mineral oil. The first one is it's clearly got the best environmental properties, especially compared to mineral oil. It's fully non-toxic, non-hazardous, bio-based, sustainable, carbon neutral, etc. So, and it's been tested up and down. It's the best available product out there. The second thing is it's a fire-safe material. Mineral oil has a fire point of 160 centigrade. I'm sorry to say that mineral oil-filled transformers burn every day. Vegetable oil-based units like FR3 fluid have never been caught on fire. There's never been a failure due to fire. And then the third one, which is of the greatest interest right now, is from a performance standpoint. Within a transformer, again, as I mentioned before, the product's primary function is a dielectric coolant. Our product has improved thermal capacity, so it either allows the transformer to last longer or to be designed smaller, further saving on materials and creating a stronger value proposition. So FR3 fluid is not only used by NASA, it's used globally, including utilities across the country, including Secretary Vilsack's home state. So that's FR3 fluid.
Yes, and I also wanted to bring up one more point that was unexpected when NASA began to use this product. One advantage that we did not count on is that we found it's been useful to self-seal minor leaks and seepage in these units. And in Florida, the highly corrosive environment that we have there, and with infrastructure that's approximately 40 years on average, we need that extra help. And so that was one of the key factors when speaking with the engineers about this product that they were really fond of. So I thought I'd bring that up too for good discussion. Also, I wanted to talk a bit about how NASA keeps track of our successes. Of course, these are federal requirements that we will buy bio-based and buy sustainable, but we have a unique system in place, and it's been established for quite some time. Since the mid-90s, when EPA came out with the Comprehensive Procurement Guideline items, at that time NASA took a strong stand, and we also had a system in place to collect other environmental data and track environmental data. So what we did was we took that same system and we developed a very strong community of practice, which all that means really is somebody at each of the NASA centers, which is quite a diversity across there would be a map if we had slides, quite a diversity across our country. And at each of those centers, there's somebody we can count on that has committed in their performance plan potentially, committed to recycled content purchasing and bio-based purchasing, and the whole, it used to be affirmative procurement, and now new terminology, sustainable acquisition programs. And so with that deep-rooted effort that's been there for quite some time, for many years, we have somebody to count on. We share successes, we share failures, we share research and development, and we do this on a reoccurring basis. We get together quarterly through Skyping, through video teleconferencing, audio conferencing, and we find a subject that somebody really needs more information on. We find a vendor, we partner with United Soybean. We do what we have to do to get the people together that need to coordinate. And that is really our secret. I mean, our secret is that NASA felt strongly on this project. They felt so strongly that they were committed since the mid-90s, and we have success from that. The team that is at the Kennedy Space Center, it's just 2 people. But since the late 90s, that team has been strong and developed a lot of relationships throughout the agency. And for us, we're somewhat a cheerleader for the program. We're enthusiastic. A lot of times it is just getting people to remember there's pride in this program. And remember, hey, your data counts. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be, close, so we have a good understanding of where we are, and we can grade ourselves and see where we need to improve and where we're doing really well. So those were the main messages I wanted to bring about for bio-based achievements. The data that we collect is about category bio-based product, the item, and how much money we've spent on it, and that's why we have a good idea. One thing I wanted to also bring up is the fact of contracts. Now, NASA is run on contracts. I mean, so you're not going to find many civil servants out there purchasing a bio-based product, but you're going to find their contractors doing that. And the reason the contracts are doing that is because NASA has procedural requirements set in place that say our contractors will do this. And also, the federal acquisition is the only way to speak to procurement. And those of you that are procurement understand that the federal acquisition regulation is the language of procurement. And what that means is FAR 52.223-2 is the bio-based portion with also sustainable acquisition. And if you speak procurement language to procurement individuals, connect them with their sustainability counterparts, maybe even introduce them to the logistics folks, and a little bit of also the end users, which would be property disposal, so when you're getting rid of products. If you talk about the whole life cycle of the products, you really have more momentum and more progress and more understanding throughout the agency. So for the future of NASA and bio-based successes, we're going to continue to add that contract language in so that it's a requirement for contractors to purchase, and that is the momentum that we need to succeed. And this is not hard. This is just, you need perseverance. And I'm here to encourage you, and I'll be here today anytime you would like to talk more about what NASA's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and we have our next go-to person, Lori Nelson. You want to come on up? For those of you who joined the soybean board 2 years ago when we had this same event, you may have seen Lori then because she had started down the path to bio-based, but she's got a lot of additional work that she's been doing very hard since then. So Lori, do you want to tell us? One of the things that I learned recently, because it was my first time to be at Indiana Dunes National Park, where Lori is in charge of all the cleaning, is that park gets as many visitors as Yellowstone.
Yep.
Based there on the suburbs of Chicago.
And we do it in 4 months worth of time. So this is our busy season, so they're not real happy I'm away, but.
All right, Lori, you want to take that microphone and push the button there. And we've got some things about, you're going to tell us what Indiana Dunes is doing with BioBased.
Well, as Karen said, I am the Custodial Supervisor for Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, and I have held this position now for 8 years. When I first started at the park, we were using just regular chemicals, and everybody had sore throats. We had a lot of people calling off. And when I became the supervisor, I took the chance to take a look at what we were using and see if there was something more user-friendly that we could use. So, and there was nobody out there. There was nobody I could talk to. I said, you guys know anything about green products? And I just got kind of pushed, oh, you don't want that stuff. It's just basically water. It doesn't work. But I didn't give up. And so I just started talking to my local vendors through the other chemicals. I'm like, hey, you got something? And they started giving me little trial products. And so through that, I just started trying one product, and that would lead to another, and then more vendors would call. And shortly, it didn't take long, 6-8 months, I had pretty much changed over every product that we use. I wish I could say that every product I used was environmentally friendly, but in cleaning, you can't. You do have to use some disinfectants. So I just found the best alternative that I could find. We switched from using a lot of chemically based to hydrogen peroxide based disinfectants. Microfiber cloths was like one of the biggest cost saving things that we did. We were spending over $2,000 a year on paper towels that got used once and thrown away. It was an investment. I want to say it was like $275 for my first load of microfiber towels. This is 8 years. Some of them towels are still being used. They're washed weekly. That's a huge, huge cost savings, which gave me the extra money I needed to try some of the other products. And that's what I do is I just work with local vendors. The USB has given me some products to try as well. And we just use that and incorporate it into our daily work.
Cool. And what advice do you have, Lori, to others who want to go bio-based?
Don't be scared of it. Do some research. Look out there, talk to people. Talk to the people that you get your supplies from, because chances are they're going to try and push some of these products too, and try a variety of them. Just because one product doesn't work for you, try a different one, because different applications. Those of you that heard me a couple years ago, one of the main things I talked about was the consistency of the products and in your daily use. When products are manufactured, they're done in a controlled lab, and the water that they use to mix chemicals is usually distilled water or purified water somehow, which does not always carry over into real world situations. At our park, we have 15 miles of lakefront. We have several different types of wells, artesian wells, regular man-made dug wells. We have city water. Even our treatment plants in different locations are different. So your water quality can change the effectiveness of the products. So that's why don't give up. Just because you find one product that didn't work well, try a different one, or try changing your water, or maybe going to a ready-to-use instead of a concentrate, because that can make all the difference in the world. Some of the products I use on one end of the park I can't use on the other, just because of that reason.
And your park is starting to use some new products in a land tamer and some other equipment in addition to cleaning supplies. You want to talk about how you did that?
Yes, the USB contacted us, and mainly what I work with is cleaning products, and I don't have a lot to do with the mechanics like engine oils and lubricating greases and that kind of stuff like that. But I see the need for us to be pushing that way. So with the work of the USB and everything, I got a hold of our auto mechanics, and we did some test pilot programs. We've used a bunch of the different products, and we have what we call the beach cleaner. And what that is just a big machine that goes out on the beach, sifts up the sand, and gets all the crap out of the way. And it is something that we have not used in the park for several years due to the cost of trying to get it up and running. It sat in back, and everybody kind of forgot about it and everything. We brought it back out, cleaned it all up, and with the help of the USB, we have replaced all of the fluids now with bio-based fluids. And we are very happy with how it's going. We've been using it since the end of May, and they were actually out last weekend before the big holiday using it, and was well received not only by our staff, but by the park visitors. We're really glad to see it back out and being used again, and we've got logos and stuff on it, and so we've been actually answering some questions on what kind of fluids and stuff like that. So now we have the advertisement out there, and we're actually able to spread the word a little bit more on the bio-based products.
And last question for Lori, we had some email exchanges about, we know some of you bio-based manufacturers, when you go see a tender and the contract language is there, oftentimes, in particular for cleaning supplies, the services are bundled, and it's hard to get a bio-based product into a bundled agreement. Lori, any final words of wisdom?
I don't work with contracting. My park is really unique because we have our own custodial unit in there. I know a lot of the parks, either the custodial stuff is done by just maintenance guys, or it's a bigger park and they're doing with contracts. Talk to your contracting specialist. Get that language in there. I know with the contracts that we do in the park, I work really close with our contract specialist, and we make sure that that green language is in there, and then we do the follow-up ourselves. We do not rely on the contracting office to do the follow-up because we know that gets left on the wayside. And it's just simple things, making sure that you do your homework ahead of time before you write the contract. Make sure you get the right language in there.
Thank you, Lori. You can see why we asked her to come back for the second time. Thanks for all you've done. And we'll be doing, and transitioning, obviously Lori has seen BioBased as an opportunity, not an obligation. And the same goes true for John McIntosh from Signature Accord Carpet. If John would join us on stage along with his panel of JoeBiluck and Alicia from Reichhold. Now these three know each other, as you'll see, and I'm going to let the three of them kind of tell their story and have a conversation together. So John, let's turn it to you and talk about how you've connected to the National Park System.
Thank you, Karen. And on behalf of all the employees at Signature Accord in Dalton, Georgia, we are very honored and privileged to be here today. I want to start with something that someone taught me a long time ago, and that is if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten, okay? We're probably not a household name to a lot of the purchasing agents and contractors here today. But I'll admit, I'll submit to you, Instagram, Snapchat probably wasn't either 2 or 3 years ago. So what we represent is a company of innovation, a company that feels that doing the right thing should not be an option. It should be part of your DNA in what you do. Over the last 3-4 years, 4 years ago, I had the privilege of testifying in front of the Senate Committee on Agriculture on creating jobs in rural America just because of that very thing. We've been very fortunate to have some early adopters come on board, companies like Mayo Clinic, Shelton Group, Marriott, Kennedy Space Center, who did the Saturn V with us as well, and also the National Park Service with Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon are purchasing literally tens of thousands of yards of bio-based carpet with high-performance polyurethane backings that are made in part with polyols extracted from soybeans. So that's our DNA, and that's what we do to be able to do that. The Yellowstone connection is very special to me because we went out there to talk to them about 40 tons of plastics that 3.5 million visitors create every single year. That was an easy conversation. They had supply, we need demand, we recycle those back into our product. But we were so inspired by the park and by nature. One of the things I love about this is that it's so authentic. Very little politics in nature. She's always right. She doesn't have an opinion. She's always right. And so that's what we took from the park, the only thing you should take. So we now have a product that's 80% green by weight. We've displaced 80% of the petrochemicals that are used in commercial flooring today, 80%. We're using 14% of those with polyols from rapidly renewable resources. And so all that to say, one of our biggest accomplishments this year was when we received our label that Secretary Vilsack talked about, the USDA. Okay, can you? There we go, okay. But the label that Secretary Vilsack was talking about today, we are the first commercial carpet that has received that label. So there's a lot of firsts here to be able to play on. One of the early adopters was the Pentagon, and to plug the USB, the checkoff program that they use so much to invest, to say, hey, just try it, here you go. And we did that about 4 or 5 years ago at the Pentagon with the mats. If you've ever been in the Pentagon, you know you come in one entrance and you leave one entrance. Over 29,000 people a day do it. The mats tend to walk off. They tend to trip. We've had 0 trip hazards, and now every single entrance that you go into today, you will be walking on soy because those mats are now at the Pentagon. So we're starting to get to a tipping point. And so it is people like JoeBiluck that I'm going to pass this off to, because along with doing something different, you know, there's always those that say it can't be done. And I had a mentor tell me a long time ago that people that say it can't be done are usually interrupted by somebody doing it. And JoeBiluck is one of those people that said, you know, I'm not real sure who you are, I'm not real sure who signature is, but 80% green by weight, Yellowstone bio-preferred, very important what we do. We'll figure it out. And something happened that's never happened in my 30 years of being in the carpet business. Now, okay, here. But Jim Evanoff asked me, could our carpet change the world? I was like, you know what, Jim, look, we're in the carpet business. And I kind of let it go at that. We had an event at Joe's school where we shared what we were doing with the students. And these are 8th graders, right? 8th graders? 7th and 8th graders. I got 3 personal handwritten notes from 8th graders thanking us for what we were doing, and we have them on the table. You can look at them. It was amazing, and I called Jim Evanoff and I said, yeah, our carpet can change the world, but it won't if there's not leaders like JoeBiluck and you guys, because 1.8 billion square feet of Class A office space. There's a lot of entrances here in Washington. So I wouldn't be a salesman if I didn't ask for the order. That helps move the needle. So Joe helped us move the needle, and I will pass it off to him.
Thank you, John. Is this working? Gotta make sure the light's on. There we go, right? We're good. So good morning, everyone. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to present some of the experiences that we've and lessons that we've learned here in Medford. I'm fortunate enough to work for a school district that was very, very progressive. And in piggybacking on John's comments regarding moving the needle, I'm also a school board member in another very progressive district. And we are keenly aware of the fact that parents send to us their 2 most prized possessions, their children and their money. And both have to be kept out of harm's way, which is extremely important to us. And one of the ways that Medford has done that is over the last 20 years, we've adopted a number of sustainable practices that we embrace, not because of the environmental benefit, that's a direct dividend of it, but we've adopted those sustainable practices to reduce our operating expenses. And over the years, we've incorporated a number of bio-based products into our fleet operations, into our facilities and custodial operations. We now incorporate roughly 18 products that are bio-based in our operations, anywhere from floor coverings to interior wall paint. Our fleet for the last 20 years has been fueled by biodiesel. So we've embraced a number of these types of products, knowing that they've reduced our operational expenses, which then can allow us to take those expenses out of our budget and realign them to support our educational goals. So when people talk about the fact that some of these bio-based or green sustainable products may not perform as well or may be more expensive, we can show that through the last 20 years, those arguments have been diminished. And we have been able to demonstrate that not only are these products performing at or above the same level as the conventional products had been, but they're also doing it in a way that embraces education and in terms of that comment that John said, where we're exposing the next generation of students to these types of products and processes so that when they become consumers, this is something that they're going to expect. You don't have to educate a whole generation of adults as to the benefits of these sustainable and bio-based products and their performance and their expectations. These kids are going to expect that when they become adults and when they become consumers and when they go into the workforce. So when we're dealing with companies like Reichhold and individuals like Alicia who are willing to meet with our students and show the workforce opportunities that bio-based products have, and the fact that these companies are embracing bio-based products and looking to create industries that are going to need employees, these types of products for Medford and for the district that I am a school board member in, we recognize that these particular programs have significant value. Not only do they have value in economics and environment, they also have value in education. So when you bundle all of those significant programs together, you have a very, very powerful program. And for us in Medford, that is something that, to use John's words, it's in our DNA. So from an educational perspective and a purchasing perspective, these products not only are in line with Medford's sustainable programs, we've adopted policies and we've adopted mission statements that support these programs so that when people come in and out of the district, these programs don't wither on the vine. So for us, it is part of our process, it is part of our strategy, and we hope that these types of programs will raise awareness to purchasing agents, to other educational professionals, to industry professionals, so that there is a more firm link between those various organizations so that we can raise the awareness that was spoken about earlier this morning. And part of that program to raise awareness, that responsibility lies with folks like me, where we are buying these products. We need to demonstrate the performance level of these products. We need to demonstrate that they are economically competitive to the products and processes that school districts, municipalities, public sector have used for decades. So for us, it is changing the way that education is supported and how educational operations are done. And for folks like Signature Accord and Universal Textiles, John McIntosh and Alicia, these are the people that we need to align ourselves with. School districts typically don't embrace the benefit of strategic partnerships. They look at programs that will make purchasing easy for the business agents, but at the same time, they lose the opportunity of the success that's generated by working with individuals and corporations that see the inherent benefit of educating generations of kids that will rely on these products moving forward as adults. So developing strategic partnerships is foreign to school districts, but we have demonstrated the fact that developing those programs and partnerships have significant benefits not only for the bottom line, but for the taxpayers of every community and for the education of the kids moving forward. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share our experiences. I'll be more than happy to answer questions during the course of the day. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Alicia from Reichhold. Thank you.
This again. Is it working now? Okay, good. My name is Alicia Albrecht. I work for a company called Reichhold, and I'm sure many of you probably haven't heard of our company. We're actually a resin manufacturer for both composites as well as coatings. My area of expertise is in coatings. Reichhold has actually been around since 1927, and we've been using bio-based products since the very beginning. But at that point in time, it wasn't necessarily an initiative. It was just something, it helped our products. It made them good from the get-go. Now, of course, in recent days, when you've got you've got Twitter, you've got the consumer with a bigger voice than ever, there's a demand for these products now. And in recent days, in recent years, we've actually developed a couple of product lines specifically based on soybeans. We have our Becasol EQ product line. We've actually got some literature and some displays in the back right corner that we brought. Some of these products that you'll be familiar with, some of them are household products, whether it be from deck stains or household trim enamels, some coatings for slate and concrete pavers for your home, each of which has to be designed for a different purpose in mind. If you look around your houses, if you look around your cars, everywhere, you're going to see paint on something. And part of what we do in our R&D labs is we devote a lot of different people with a lot of different areas of expertise to fine-tune those. So in terms of some of our recent success stories, we actually have a product that was designed not necessarily for the end use, but we found that it suited very well. We have an alkyd latex resin that we use for blacktop sealer applications. Now, typically in a market for blacktop sealers, you don't think of a bio-based product. You think of a pretty dirty product. It's not necessarily environmentally friendly. A lot of them are petroleum-based, so we're competing in an old industry with a brand new technology. Sometimes there's some hardships that we have with that. In many cases, people get accustomed to using what they've used for many years. So one of the things that we did with the help of Joe in the Medford School District is we had a lot of time and effort that we put into our laboratories of proving that this is a really good product. It performs very well. We're fortunate enough to have a lot of equipment at our facility to do some accelerated testing to see how it would perform in real world. But there's nothing like real world testing. There's nothing like getting involved, getting some things put down on a real parking lot to see how it's going to perform, not in our ideal conditions that we do in the lab, but in real world testing. We put this down at a cooler temperature, maybe not so ideal conditions, and we had a couple of different products out there to see how is it going to compare our green bio-based product to some of the not so good products that are out there. And what we've seen so far and what the students have validated, and they've been fantastic at communicating back with us, it wears well, it performs better. It may have an initial cost that might be a little bit more expensive, but it lasts far, far longer than some of the competitive products that are out there. So we've got a lot of success stories. That's just one of the many. I invite you to stop by our booth to discuss some more with us if you can.
Talking to this one. So you can see some of the students that Alicia has mentored in an ongoing way where they've actually been doing data collection for Reichhold, right?
They're going to be fantastic scientists one day. I have never been more impressed with students in my life because I feel like in recent years, things change and you wonder, are the kids coming up? Are they going to have that excitement and that drive? And I must say they're far more excited than I was at their age. And it's just fantastic to see, and they've been great. So
thank you for making that commitment to the kids. Absolutely. So thank you all for your being agents of change, and if you'll let Tim Fitzgerald join us on the stage. When Congress created the 2002 Farm Bill with the brand new provisions to create a bio-preferred program, their vision was not just to have USDA or government agencies to be buying bio-based, but their vision was that the government would help lead the nation to bio-based. And I think, Tim, you embody exactly what Congress wanted to see. But for all of us today, Tim Fitzgerald is a very important guy because he works for the District of Columbia Water Authority. So anything you're drinking today, Tim probably, his jurisdiction had some involvement in it. And that reminds me, they're also in charge of the Sewer Authority, and I haven't mentioned that if anyone needs to use the restrooms during the break, their men's is that way, the women's is right behind me on the stage. But we appreciate Tim for many reasons. And he has been really a trailblazer in Washington for sustainability on many levels. And we've just had a joy working with Tim. So you come forward, and we're going to try to talk into the mic this time.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here today. I want to tell you a story about DC Water. DC Water is the largest wastewater treatment facility in the world. We're also the most advanced. We do a lot of different things. We have an environmental leader at the head of our organization. And I love it because he allows us to do the very things that we're able to do. For instance, in a lot of the things that we do for the bio-based products, we work with Greg Blake. We work with the United Soy Board, with Clean Cities as well. And I sit on the board of Clean Cities. Also, we deal with a lot of diesel products. So I'm also a biodiesel ambassador for the biodiesel board. Thank you, Karen. What we've been able to do here in the city, and I'm a homegrown product, so I take it especially personal when we talk about how we're going to better this environment. I'm from the city, from Southeast Washington, born and raised. So in terms of what we've been able to put forth in this organization is environmental products. Environmental products, what do I mean? Degreasers, hydraulic oils, the very things that we use in our vehicles. We've spoken to OEMs, and I do a lot of traveling with the OEMs and talking about how we put trucks together, vehicles together, heavy equipment together that can use this type of product in all of what we do. So when we have what we call sewer suckers, the large vehicles that clean this city and clean these catch basins, it's very important how we do that, and we do it in an environmentally friendly way. We've also put in place systems that track this, and that's part of my job. I track the way our fleet operates in terms of what's going in the ground, how it's operating on the road, the telematics that goes with it, and the environmentals that develop inside of what we're doing. We also have a product called Bloom that you're going to hear a lot about if you haven't heard about it. Our Bloom product is basically recovering assets from the ground. In other words, to put it in another phrase, we're turning poop into loot, okay? That's what we do. And it's in a way in which it's environmentally friendly. I have interns that travel with me, and we go out places and we teach them about how to get involved in this whole product and sustainability level. I hire interns every summer. And again, I take chances on doing things because in order to be a trailblazer, as Karen would put it, you've got to do these things with these young kids. These young kids are coming up, they know nothing about this environment. But to see them excited, to see them from all walks, and to see them get themselves involved in how we're going to make this culture, make this city, make this world a better place for us to live, it's vitally important that we involve them from the granular level of what we do. Very important. From the design of vehicles, and we just received yesterday what we call a TCV. It's a tactical command vehicle. It's also going to be out on the road censoring the types of biochemicals that are in the air. So it's the first of its kind in this area. And in terms of doing these kinds of things, you have to be innovative. You've got to be able to lead the way, blaze the trail. We have been able to do that. We're one of the top fleets in North America. And right here in this city, we do a very good job in terms of that. I'm proud to be a member of DC Water, a member of the Biodiesel Board, a member of Greater Washington Clean Cities, and we also host the auto show here at the Convention Center as well. We want to do a better job in terms of making sure, again, that we're involved in not only the city, but the world in clean water, wastewater treatment, environmentally friendly products being infused in everything that we do. I hope you guys are excited, as I am, to be involved in all of this. I wish you all the best. There are many products here. I'm especially glad that Karen would introduce me because she's become a great friend. Thank you.
Well, before we let you off the stage, I want to make sure Tim is the first person that I've heard talk about this, but I think it's a great point. Tim, do you mind talking about how you've gotten the stakeholders to support what you do, including how you've positioned bio-based products with your unions?
At DC Water, we have 5 different unions with 5 different collective bargaining agreements. To get everybody in one room to agree and to schedule them in to talk about breathing better, introducing these products. It wasn't an easy task in the beginning, so I applaud my staff as well. We were able to get all unions to agree and to buy in that these products would go in our backhoes, would go in our heavy equipment, would go in our smaller equipment, and they would use them themselves in terms of our product offering. So it was a task, let me say that.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate all that you're doing and for giving us clean water, for giving